everybody. This is Justin Bogart from the Super E&J podcast episode
6.
We're at 6 episodes already. We had a good one interview with Vicki Perry last episode, so that was kind of fun to kind of present the person that kind of set the foundation for you and I in real estate. So what I do here in the real estate investing world is I'm a note investor. I buy and sell mortgages, and I help people create land contracts and note and mortgages. And that's what I'm in the business of doing, investing passively.
And I do all things short-term rentals, so Airbnbs. We rehab properties for our clients and do all the hosting and property management and coaching and consulting, and that is the passion for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, you do a lot. You're still out there on social media. I like how you keep it going. It's tough for me to keep up with you on social media. You do so much out there. But so what we got today?
Today we have another guest, which is very fun. And this is Justin's world, so I'm excited to learn even more.
Yeah, so this person I know very dearly, close to my heart. His name is Bob Repass, and he's from Colonial Funding Group. And Bob, are you there, Bob? Mr. Repass? I think he's coming up. Technology is getting slower and quicker.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bob. Can you hear us?
I can. It's good to be with you guys. Let me see if I can get my camera to work here. That'd be great.
So just so you know, we did test this like
There we
5
go.
seconds ago.
But that connection between Dallas and Indianapolis, I had to make it work twice there, but we're good to go. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome, Bob. Yeah, thanks for being a part of this. And well, I have to point out, because Super E doesn't know Bob as well as I do, and Bob and I kind of have this underlying competition with some professional sports teams. And so I like the Boston Red Sox, and he's a Yankee fan. So we had started off on the good foot, when we first met. But I think we've moved past that a little bit, Bob, right?
Well, considering that we're 19 games ahead this year, I feel pretty good about it. So I am really surprised you brought it up, to be honest with you, Justin. So I have to give you credit, because most Red Sox fan wouldn't even bring it up, being based on the season you guys are struggling this year. So kudos to you for at least acknowledging that.
It is what it is. I want to make sure our guests are happy and just on an upbeat, from the get-go here. So. And then you're also a Dallas Cowboys fan, right?
I am. I've been a season ticket holder for the last 20 years. So we're 1-0, and I'm always happy when we're 1-0. And hopefully we're going to Washington, D.C. this weekend, take on the Redskins, and hopefully we'll be 2-0.
Awesome. Well, if it all ended right now, you'd have a perfect record.
Yeah, it doesn't work out that way, though.
Yeah, there's 15 more games, right?
That's it.
So, well, Bob, thanks for being on again. I know you through some training programs that I've been a part of in the note business that you and your other counterparts have definitely helped pave the way for me. So I truly appreciate that. And just want to, gratefully thank you for those opportunities. And I definitely flourished because of your guys' training and your ongoing training that you also provide to me as well. And we're also impacted in another way where we've done several deals together too, which is kind of exciting.
Yes. Yeah, we've done a lot over the last several years, and I know you've been a big part of coming to some of our classes and just talking, about your history with us and how it's helped you take your note business to the next level. And I appreciate your business. We do deals on a regular basis, month in and month out, and it's always exciting to see deals come across my email from you. And sometimes some are easier than others, but we usually get them to the finish line, so it's always fun.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that where you're at in the hierarchy of the business, you're obviously at the top level of management there, but you still get engaged in the day-to-day operations of deals. So we've closed a couple of deals, and we just closed a third deal recently this month as well. Wow. With Bob being involved. He's very active in the business as far as in the trading part of the business as well. And so it's kind of fun to get stuff from him. And then he'll always give me feedback or give me a little grief about stuff too, which, I'm okay with, because I still want to learn and still want to figure out the right way to do stuff. So.
Outstanding. Well, there's always room to learn, and you always bring some unique perspectives in there. So I'm excited to be on here today. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get rolling.
Yeah. So Super E, you want to start us off?
I do. So Bob, why don't you tell us about yourself, not only on the professional side in the note business, but also personally?
Okay. Well, let's start personally. As Justin knows, he knows my wife, Angie.
Yep.
I've been married to Angie for, 37 years now.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you. We just celebrated our 37th anniversary last month, and we have 2 children. I have a son, Robbie, who will be, he'll be 33 next week. And I have a daughter, Kristen, who lives in Washington, D.C., and she'll be 27 next month. So we have 2 great children. My son, Robbie, is married, so I have a daughter-in-law, Emma, as well. No grandkids yet, but we live here, as I mentioned earlier, we live here in Dallas. We're avid sports fans. We like to travel. We've been to Italy the last couple summers, so that's our new hotspot, and we enjoy that. As far as career, after college, I got started in the banking world, and then in 1990, I entered the seller finance and discount note business. So I've been in the discount note space now for over 30 years. Back in the day, I started out with some of the institutional investors. So back in the 90s, Metropolitan Mortgage and Securities was based out of Spokane, Washington. And they were what you would refer to as the 800-pound gorilla. They were the big guy. They were the ones buying notes. But they were mostly focused on the West Coast. They'd buy a lot in Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, and so forth. They wanted to expand to the East Coast. I was living in North Carolina at the time, and they hired me to open up the East Coast operation, which I did. And it's funny, it's such a small world, and Justin, you know some of these folks just from being around the note industry, but when I first started out at Metropolitan in 1990, there was people like Tracy Rui, who now works for Notes Direct and has been an avid note investor. She worked at Metropolitan Mortgage. Melissa Bowling and Sheila White from Allied Servicing, they were both at Metropolitan at the time. So it's funny how everything is intertwined. And actually at that time is when I met Eddie Speed with Colonial Funding Group. He was one of the brokers for Metropolitan at the time. So small world. It's funny how our lives stay connected throughout the years. So I stayed with Metropolitan until 1997. They were looking at that time then to consolidate and bring everybody to Spokane. I'd been to Spokane twice a year for 7 years, and I went every April and every October, and it snowed both times I was there. So there's no way I'm going to relocate from North Carolina to Spokane.
Yeah.
But I had an opportunity to move to Texas and work for the Associates and start their seller finance division, which I did. And again, I ran the operation here in Dallas, grew that from 6 people to about 30 people. In 2000, Citigroup bought the Associates. They weren't really sure what this seller finance, buying loans at a discount was. And it just so happened that one of our trading partners was Bayview Financial. They wanted to get into the space in 2001. Funny story, they wanted me to move from Dallas to Miami. And as cool as that sounds, South Beach and all that, my son was getting ready to enter high school, and I was just not going to relocate my family. So
That'd be tough.
They said start the operation there. So I did. Long story short, we started with about 5 people, ended up with about 125 people. We were definitely big time for a good decade there until 2008. Everybody knows what happened there. And our model at Bayview was securitizations. So our securitization liquidity kind of froze up at that time, but we entered the loan servicing business. And that's where I got my toes in the water of loss mitigation and asset management and learned all that fun and exciting things. And then in 2012, I left Bayview and joined Eddie over here at Colonial. We started our capital fund, and we have 2 capital funds now. And we actively, as you mentioned earlier, we buy and sell loans. So that's my main function as a fund manager, is acquiring loans and then working through the trade desk to sell to individual investors like yourself, Justin. So like I said, that was a long story short, but it was probably a little longer than you were anticipating.
No, it's good. It sets the framework for what we're going to get into and talk about, the meat of the conversation. I think it gives Super E an opportunity to kind of learn about who you are and why I talk about you. You know, be like, yeah, this Bob Repass guy. She's probably going like, who's Bob Repass? Like,
right, exactly.
You know Bob Repass? Like, seriously?
There you go.
Yep.
Come on, Super E, act excited. Let's go.
Right on. So, Bob, I have a question for you. And by the way, I didn't know about your, I've never met your son, Robbie. I heard you talking about before, but never met. I met Kristen before at a couple of events that we've been a part of, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But okay. Do you have something that stands out in your mind when you look back through all your deals that you've done, either for the companies you work for or the personally that you've been involved with, just, you know, with your own, you know, real estate businesses that you run outside of the stuff? What's something that stands out, a transaction that you've done that was just really unique or really fun or really profitable, or just maybe just a sad story? Or we just like to kind of learn different things from different people here.
Well, going back over 30 years, you know, there's been a lot. And there was times when you work for an institution, you're buying hundreds of deals a month. You know, it's hard for any one particular one to, you know, necessarily stand out. But yeah. I don't know that it was memorable for all the right reasons, but there is a transaction that happened during the time, I believe, where I was at the Associates, and we bought a mortgage. And it was a seller finance note. So you're dealing with an individual mom and pop who has a note. They want to sell it. You make them an offer. It's not usually serviced by a bank or a loan servicing company. So, you know, you're collecting the paperwork, a copy of their note, a copy of their deed of trust, all the other documents they had from the closing. And then you ask for a pay history, and sometimes you get things like an AM schedule that's checked off showing that they made it. As a matter of fact, not on this deal I'm talking about, but in the past, I've had somebody send me Xerox copies of $20 bills and show that was their proof of payment. You know, you get creative. But in this case, we had somebody sign a pay history authorizing that the balance was X and so forth. And then we bought that loan, and several months after we bought it, when the borrower received their statement from us, they called the office and said, well, that balance isn't right, but I had paid a $20,000 principal reduction payment several months ago. Well, that wasn't disclosed to us. So, you know, we bought let's say a $70,000 balance. We paid 80% of the balance when we bought it, but the balance was really $50,000 at the time. So we had to go back to the seller and kind of politely verify that and unwind it and get our money back. And luckily we did. But it could have very easily, where that person just went dark on us, we never would have got that. So memorable from a standpoint of that it worked out, and that it definitely, from the institutional side, caused us to put more verifications and things in place, estoppel letters and so forth. But it kind of emphasized the, you know, there is a risk in the note business, just like there is in any kind of real estate investing. And you just have to conduct your due diligence and protect yourself and follow your procedures. So that one always has stuck out to me. And then through the years, especially after the 2008 crisis, just helping homeowners stay in their house, working out loan modifications. That's one of the beauties of buying loans at a discount, especially if you're playing in the NPL space. Mm-hmm. If you buy that loan at enough discount where you have enough of a haircut that you have room to help that homeowner either by reducing the balance or reducing the interest rate, reducing the payments to allow them to stay in there. So I always thought some of those success stories where a homeowner who may have faced a difficult time has been able to stay in their house. And, you know, we always try to take pride in that from the perspective of our capital fund.
I like that you said that, because I've often told you, you know, the reason why I got in this business is not only to make a profit and to make, you know, money for myself, but it's really like a win-win-win, because you help yourself by making money, you help the borrower by giving them, you know, opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise with a with a bigger institutional bank, the bigger name banks. And then they went they went in addition to that, because if they sell, or you went in addition to that after that, because if they sell the property or refinance the property, then because you buy those things at a discount, you see that discount a lot sooner than what you anticipated at full maturity. So that's kind of cool things about it, is that, you're not being selfish about it. It's a win for them as well. So I like it. And I like local loans as well. I don't know if you still shop local loans in your guys' area in Dallas, but it's kind of fun to shop local loans here in Indianapolis as well, because it's even closer to the chest.
Right, and just to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, the other winner in that scenario that we're talking about is the local communities. It helps with the neighborhood stabilizations.
Yeah.
It helps, I mean, a neighborhood full of homeowners is a lot better than a neighborhood full of tenants most of the time. So not only do you keep a property from maybe becoming vacant or becoming a rental property, but you have a homeowner that you've kept in there. So you're helping yourself, you're helping the consumer, the borrower, and you're helping the community. So it is a win all the way around. And yeah, I mean, we don't buy as much in our backyard as we used to. Obviously, we have a friends and family fund as well, and we do focus a lot on Texas. So not necessarily in the Dallas area, but all over Texas. But our capital fund is nationwide, so we take those as we go. But as you mentioned, when you have a large capital fund and then you have folks all across the country, you know who's in Indianapolis, and you know who's in St. Louis, and you know who's in Kansas City, and so when you see deals there, it's easy for me to call Justin and say, hey, I've got 4 deals that just came up in Indianapolis if you're interested. So that's part of the beauty of our network that we have through Note School and Colonial Funding, is that we have, what we refer to in the business as boots on the ground, but we have investors there. And there's times where if I have a property that I own that, maybe I don't know the condition of it, or if the borrower still lives there, I can call Justin and say, hey, Justin, can you ride by there and just make sure that, the property's okay, and, it's still occupied and things like that. So that's kind of the environment that we try to create, is help each other out throughout the country.
It's invaluable what he just said, because people that are his counterparts there, they've used me for that same reason. I've also used them and used other investors in other states as well for that exact reason. It's just great to know you can rely on somebody that's in the business that understands what you're going through, and be like, well, I really need to get a real time photo of what's going to happen in here. So because you'll be surprised. Some people that I've checked on an asset here locally, the house was just completely ruined. So, they're able to make a good decision based on, the seller obviously was creating a different story, and then I was able to prove to them, like, well, this is probably something you want to get a little bit more of a discount,
Those connections.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Bob puts on a huge event, not just Bob, but Bob's other counterparts as well. He puts on a huge event once a year that he promotes, and it's the biggest event that I know of, that I get to experience anyways, for note investing. And it's called Note Expo. And it happens every year around the same time. It's around the 1st of November. This year, Bob, is it the 1st to the 2nd and 3rd, or what's the dates?
It's the 1st and 2nd. It's always the first weekend of November, and it just so happens that this year it falls right on the 1st and 2nd. So this will be the 6th year in a row that we've had Note Expo. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been in the business since 1990. Well, back in the 90s, there was a couple trade shows that had a pretty significant following. There'd be 300 or 400 people there, and so forth. And then when the 2000s came, they kind of got a little smaller, and some of them became more salesy, where people would be trying to sell products and so forth. So the note industry really, for a period of time there, went without a industry trade show per se. And we would go to larger events like Mortgage Bankers Association meetings and IMN meetings. And we wanted to create something similar for the note business, where it wasn't a pitch fest, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was, all education, bringing industry experts. And it wasn't just our world per se at Note School or Kelowna, it was for the whole industry. So we have 500 plus attendees every year. We have probably 30 to 35 vendors in our exhibit hall, ranging anywhere from self-directed IRA companies to loan servicers, property preservation companies, other capital funds, people looking to buy and sell loans. So just the networking alone, Justin, I'm sure you can attest to this, people that
yeah.
you've met, just sitting at the lunch table or at the cocktail reception, and the relationships that you're able to build. And then on top of that, you get the good educational content. And there's some exciting things that we can talk about here in a few minutes that we've got on the agenda for this year. So I know you're planning on coming down.
I will either.
We look forward to having you. And I think we had you on stage in the past. So
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe we can make that happen again here in the future. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I actually, I don't think I told you this, but they also allow people to enter in case studies through they have a mentorship program, which is another sister company to what Bob works with. And so I am trying to put together my last minute case study to present to see if I win this competition for, like, they have different categories with the case studies with performing and non-performing loans and stuff. And it's fun because there are such unique things that happen with every deal in note investing that never one deal is the same. I mean, it's got maybe the same theory behind it, you're buying it and selling it and stuff like that, but there's always a little unique twist and something that you learn about it and the situation in different county and different state. And that's what intrigues me so much about this business, is that it's so much fun. But just to segue back to Note Expo, is that I always enjoy the motivational speakers that you have that show up there, because they really come from a different angle and they're able to kind of like get you kind of back refreshed into, not just being an entrepreneur, but taking your businesses to the next level or taking your investing to the next level. And I mean, I by far look forward to Note Expo out of any event I go to every year. It's because it's such a big event, and specifically for my business. So selfishly, I like it.
Yeah, and we try to keep it, we do have sessions that are educational and very drilled down on topics, and we have panel discussions as well. But we've really strived to also have that motivation and that inspirational type speakers. And one thing we did last year is we started the series of, we call them Note Talks, but they're basically TED Talks, where we had 8 people do 10-minute TED Talks back to back. And some were super motivational, telling their life story and their life journey, and some were tying in the note business and how certain strategies have allowed them to build legacies for their families. So that, that's also inspiring, and it's just, we have more of that this year. We're going to have some different folks up there telling their stories. But you're right, we get a lot of positive feedback. It's always fun to learn, but you can get, death by PowerPoint or spreadsheets or whatever. So sometimes you can have somebody who's just kind of keeping you engaged. And, as exciting as it is to be a real estate investor or note investor, sometimes, you could be a one-man shop, so you work by yourself, and you need that camaraderie and that inspiration that, I come into an office and we have about 12 people that come in every day. So I get to interact with people every day. If you're an entrepreneur and it's just you, and maybe you have a VA somewhere that you talk to on the phone or the computer, it's not the same. So part of that going to a conference like Note Expo is like, you're sharing these war stories, and you realize you're not the only one out there who feels that same way. And it feels good to get away for 2 or 3 days and just exchange ideas. And man, I really hit a wall here, and then you get advice from somebody. I hit that last year. Here's how I got around it. Just those things, not only from the stage and hearing people stories, but just the things you hear around the exhibit hall and the little meeting rooms and the things like that, I think is priceless.
Yeah, my other favorite thing I like about Note Expo is that they have things are catered, like, they have breaks and lunches and stuff like that during the expo. It's like, an 8 or 9 hour, each day an event. And so they have, my favorite thing is food. So they'll have, sponsors will sponsor certain things and stuff. And I know Bob always sponsors one, and it's usually around a ballpark food theme, which I love about it. So I always look forward to be like, all right, what's Mr. Repass going to do here? Because I'm looking forward to some types of food.
Yeah, we always have a good time, especially when we're picking out the menus. But to piggyback on that is we have those breaks and those lunches and those receptions inside the exhibit hall. So everybody is together networking, and then the vendors who help sponsor and pay bills are right there. So it's not like everybody goes off site and the vendors are sitting there wondering where the whole audience is. They're all right there. And so yeah, we always like picking out the ballpark type food, and we also like when we have our ice cream break. I love ice cream too. So the ice cream break is always fun on Friday afternoons as well.
It's top notch. Maybe we can get Super E if she can free up her calendar to get out there. She's all over the place, man. I'm surprised she's in Indianapolis today. The way you've been so busy.
Oh, we can all be here.
I have to lock her down for recordings now, Bob.
I know. I thought she mentioned something earlier that she was maybe even looking to expand to Vegas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are. Let's talk about that.
I have an opportunity. There are 5 houses in Henderson, Vegas, which is just outside of Henderson, Nevada. So in Las Vegas and in Henderson, they have very strict laws and regulations around short-term rentals. In Henderson, they've just deregulated short-term rentals there. So I have a client that has 5 properties that are traditional rentals right now, but they very much want to turn them into short-term rentals. So I have a call tonight with the possibility of expanding there.
Awesome.
So,
Congratulations for that opportunity. That's awesome.
thank you.
So have you ever experienced any short-term rentals and anything you've done besides using them? Because I know I use them.
You know, it's interesting. I've never used a short-term rental, an Airbnb. My son and his wife do it all the time. As a matter of fact, my son and my daughter-in-law went to Paris earlier this year, and they stayed at an Airbnb. And I know he stayed at some all across Europe. And whenever he goes anywhere, he stays in them, and he recommends it. My only problem is Angie and I like the reward points when you use certain hotels. So that's, if you can come up with reward points for Super E's Airbnb, then there you go.
That's an idea.
That's the only reason. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I've never done it. But I used to take a cab all the time, and now I Uber everywhere. So
That's right.
I can't remember the last time I took a cab. Yeah. I did Uber last weekend. I finally had a date night with my lady. So we were able to use an Uber just to go back and forth from the hotel to the restaurant. So
very
it's
nice.
kind of nice.
Very good.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about the Note Expo agenda. Do you have something that you can detail us out as to what's going to happen?
Yeah, let me just real quick again. It's November 1st and 2nd, and you can always go to noteexpo.com for any of the details, and I'm sure we can get that information plugged in there later. But as we talked about earlier about the motivational and inspiring talks, we also try to make sure we cover what's really going on in the business, maybe a cutting edge topic. And one thing that we're bringing a expert speaker in on this year is to talk about cybersecurity. And, a lot of times, unfortunately, a entrepreneur or somebody that, maybe even they're working their way out of their corporate job, but they got a self-directed IRA and they're doing some investing, they don't really think about themselves as, subject to hackers or ransomware and things like that. On a corporate level, it could be a huge expense, obviously. It's even more if you do get hacked or something like that. But for a small business owner, for an entrepreneur, for somebody who's got money transferring different places and wires going everywhere and things, cybersecurity is a hot topic. And we wanted to bring somebody in that could kind of show, not talk at the corporate level, but talk as a small business owner and things you can do to protect your data. Just think about where all your contact information is, or just think about how your QuickBooks or how you keep up with things. What if something like happened to that? I mean, there's statistics that they were throwing around when I was talking to them about the percentage of businesses that small businesses that go out of business because they got hacked and they were just nothing to do. So I think it'll be really exciting and timely subject to cover. So I'm excited about that. We're going to do our note talks again, like we mentioned. I'm going to have some additional panels, changing up the panels a little bit. I'm going to have one on how technology is impacting the note business. There's a lot of platforms coming out there now, not only to buy and sell notes, but to help you with your due diligence, to help you with your workflow, to help you with your marketing campaigns, for your direct mail campaign. So we're gonna have a panel talking about how technology is impacting the note business. So I think that's going to be pretty entertaining. And then we'll have our normal, state of the industry, kind of what's going on in the business, what we forecast for 2020. And as you know, Justin, one thing that I'm passionate about and involved in it a lot is the regulatory relief aspect of not only seller financing, but just the whole housing industry. So we'll have our legislative update and kind of tell everybody what's going on from a government perspective in DC. As a matter of fact, I'm heading out on Monday with my friend Jeff Watson, who is an attorney and a real estate investor and a self-directed IRA guru out of Ohio. We're going to DC to do some meetings on Capitol Hill to talk about some regulatory relief for seller finance industry. So we'll be giving you guys some updates on that.
Awesome.
Wow. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's a lot. They pack a lot into the weekend, and then a couple of days before that, they have like we talked about earlier, they have a sister company where there's a mentorship program and stuff where they help teach the note business, and they'll invite those people that are members or students a couple of days early, and they'll have like a special sessions and stuff, and that's also valuable to someone like me. I mean, I've done quite a few deals, but I haven't done as many deals as Bob Repass, obviously. So you can always learn from stuff, and you can always hear from other people. So it's like if you get even a smaller group of people that are specifically doing deals in certain ways, and then you learn from other people that come to Note Expo in general outside of our the company that is the sister company to Bob. And that's what I like about it too, is because you can help them too get to the next level. Because they're always they'll look at me and be like, well, how did you get to where you are? Where do you source deals is the question I always get asked. And just like, well, you just got to go out and look. I mean, you can't just go in the yellow pages and find where to buy notes, because funny, I asked the same question too when I was in that young stage of just learning how to note investing. But then you got to get out and network, and networking really was the key to taking your game to the next level, was just networking at Note Expo. So
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the theme, and I think you've heard me say it many times, Justin, is, we folks sit around content and connections. We want good quality content and education, and we want to provide an atmosphere where you can make connections or reconnections with folks on an annual basis. And we do that not only with our day ahead of Note Expo, where we have you folks in for a kind of an appreciation event, but then we expand it throughout the note industry when we have Note Expo. So it's always an exciting time. It's a way to kind of wrap up the year. You get down to November and you're trying to close out the fourth quarter and at the same time setting your goals for the next year. So we feel like it's a perfect time of year to have it. It's right before everybody gets really involved with the holidays. So it just seems pretty good. So it's the first weekend of November 1st and 2nd here in Dallas.
Yeah. All right. And is there a website that we can direct people to sign up for Expo if they haven't signed up already?
Absolutely. Just go to Note Expo, all one word, NOTEEXPO.com. And you can see there's the final agenda is not posted yet, but you'll see who the sponsors are. There's registration and how to book your hotel room and all that great information there that you can find right at notexpo.com. And you got to work on Super E and see if we can get her to come.
I know. I've been trying to work on her to figure out how we can take her Airbnb and I'm doing air quotes here, note your way out of it. So we can sell the whole operation on note. And so that's the goal.
I believe so. Or we can give her some creative ways maybe to acquire some with some creative seller financing where she's, going to buy them using seller financing. So it's not just per se buy a note, sell a note. I mean, there's all different strategies around notes. And Justin, I think you can attest. I mean, there's real estate investors. There's people there that do hard money loans, fix and flip projects. I mean, it's, the note business is just kind of an add-on to what they're doing or a strategy they could use. So we're excited. It's not just 500 note guys, so to speak. I mean, there's all kinds of people in the real estate investing world that come through there to learn about different strategies and also ways that they can grow their wealth, as I mentioned earlier, for their family legacy. Using your self-directed IRA is powerful. Especially if there's ways you can do it for your children or your grandchildren, educational accounts, health savings accounts. So there's all different ways you can use strategies like that in real estate and note investing. So come to Note Expo and we'll teach you more about it.
All right, so that's November 1st, November 2nd. The website is notexpo.com. You can get there and you can sign up. And do you have any closing thoughts after hearing Bob today? That's a lot to take in because you're not used to hearing all this note stuff. But
I just wanted to know, Bob, if you could share with our viewers and our listeners, what is one piece of advice that you would give to either existing real estate investors or potential investors?
Well, Super E, you're kind of stealing my thunder because I'm going to do my note talk about this, this topic. But as a matter of fact, we publish a monthly newsletter, and I actually did write a column about this last week when it came out. So if I was asked one piece of advice, it's always to put relationships above transactions. It's always about the relationship. I mean, I do business, honestly, I do business still today with people that I cold called and met in 1990. They still send me deals. And I don't always have the best price, and I'm not always the fastest, and I'm not always the nicest guy.
oh, come on, you're a nice guy.
If I can tell you anything, it's never about this one deal, okay? It's always about the relationships, and always put that above transactions. So that would be my advice. And if you want to hear more about it, come to Note Expo, and I'll be telling you during my TED Talk.
Nice segue.
Awesome.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for jumping on and being our guest for today. And we're very happy to promote Note Expo. I know from my side of the table, it's very beneficial, and hopefully Super E can get a chance to get out there as well. And, I was just happy to have you on, Bob.
Well, I appreciate it anytime. And maybe after the Cowboys win the Super Bowl or the Yankees win the World Series, you can just have me on again, and we could just talk sports for a few minutes. I'll have my gear on, ready to go.
If the Cowboys make it to the Super Bowl, I expect you to take me with you so I can experience it.
There we go.
Nice. There we go. All right. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was episode 6 with Mr. Bob Repass, and this is the Super E and J podcast. So until next time, everybody.
Thank you.